So in the previous video, we just discussed about fiscal deficit, gross fiscal deficit, primary deficit and others. And we ended with an open-ended question, why run a fiscal deficit? Now we understand that running a fiscal deficit means spending more than the revenue. That is, our expenditure is greater than the revenue. This means that the deficit needs to be financed by some kind of borrowing. We have discussed this also in the previous video where we said all deficit has to be financed through some kind of borrowing. There is no escaping this. So conventional wisdom says that borrowing is not good. However, leftist and centrist economists say that borrowing and spending is good for the economy. How? So who are we borrowing from? This is the first question we have to answer, and then we'll come back and answer the question, why is borrowing good according to leftist and centrist economists? So who are we borrowing from? This is the first question. Now we could borrow from external sources, external lenders. Examples are World Bank or JICA. JICA is Japanese Investment Cooperative Agency, etc. For example, for our metro, JICA gave a loan at 1% interest rate, which is fantastic, right? So this is also one of the reasons we want external borrowings. Let's say you are getting soft loans at 1% interest rate. Our inflation is itself at 7 to 8%. And even if you go for a simple government bond, it is at 6%. So if you're getting borrowing, if you're getting loans at just 1% interest rate, that means you have a spread of 5 to 6%. And let's say you take $1 billion at 1% interest rate, and you're saving 5% interest rate on that, or 6% interest rate on that, then that means you have saved $60 million straight away, and you have got money today instead of earning that money and then coming back. So you're saving time and you're saving a lot of money if you get soft loans, if the terms are favorable. Okay, if the terms are unfavorable, then borrowing is a very, very, very bad idea. Okay, now all of the external commercial loans also come with an interest component, and this must be repaid in whole. Hence, we must produce enough goods and services to repay the loan and interest, and this is not an easy thing to do, right? For example, let's say you also take 1 crore rupees as a loan. Now interest at 10%, let's say a simple, let's say 10% simple interest, then you have to pay 10 lakh rupees as interest. That means you are paying approximately 80,000 rupees as interest every month. Now how will you repay the loan? For that you have to earn even more, and this loan may continue to exist for 20 years. Do you want to do that? That is the first question you have to answer. So any loan that you take, you have to service the loan and the interest, which is not an easy thing to do. So is borrowing good? That is what we have to answer at all points in time, whether it is our personal finance or government finance. Now the second point, we borrow from our own future selves by issuing government backed bonds. This debt, we owe it to ourselves, and it is quite tricky to understand for more people. For example, now let's say the government gives a bond, a 5-year bond, let's say 5% interest rate. So the bond is 1 lakh rupees today, but the government says that after 5 years we will give you 1,30,000 rupees. Now the government has taken money from the public today, but it has to return it to the public after 5 years, right? So we are borrowing from our future self. How is it borrowing from our future self? Because the government is, who is the government? We are the government. Where is the government getting the money from? The government is getting the money from the people. So the government is borrowing from the people and it is repaying the people at a future date. It is as good as we borrowing ourselves. Now, some economists say that when the government spends more, it helps in creating more jobs and hence keep the economy running more vibrantly. It must, however, be understood that in today's global economy, there is no magic wand to wish away debt. All debt, whether internal or external, must be repaid at some point in time. Or you must be a fraud. If you are a fraud, then you can borrow and run away. But that does not work with the government, right? India today has never defaulted on any loan till today, right? This is 2023. India has never defaulted on any loan. Now, deficits, when run within limits, have their use. After all, deficits are nothing but borrowings, that is debt. All debt must be kept within limits for the economy to be healthy. This is something all economists must understand. The question that we have to still answer is, why do leftists and centrists feel that it is good to have some kind of a fiscal deficit? The idea is simple, right? Now, let's say you are running a company and you are borrowing 1 crore rupees to buy new machinery for the company. Now you are buying this machinery in the hope that this will help you have better output. Okay, so the point that you have to answer is this. For example, you are buying the machinery at a loan of 6%. Then the output of the machinery should be so high that it should be more than 6%, and it should be higher than what labor also it is going to carry, the labor component that it is going to carry. The return should be greater than labor component plus interest component plus the depreciation on the machine itself. If that happens, then it's a good investment. If that doesn't happen, it's a bad investment. The ideology is similar behind borrowing to finance your deficit. You are creating a deficit in the hope that whatever you create today is going to have greater results or greater output in the years to come. This is the idea behind having a fiscal deficit. But for how long is it going to be useful? It's not going to be useful for very long, is it? For example, in the year 2020, if you have borrowed and you have a fiscal deficit of 4%, and now you are financing that in 2021, and in 2021 you are continuing to have a fiscal deficit of 4%, which you are financing in 2022. So that 4% is remaining constant. So at any point in time, your fiscal deficit cannot be very high, and you are only getting that 4% cushion one time. That's all. Not every year. You are getting it only one time, because 2020's fiscal deficit you have to finance in 2021, and 2021's fiscal deficit you have to finance in 2022. So you're getting the cushion of 4% only once. And this is a cushion that you have to carefully manage for many, many years, right? Till the point that you want to run a fiscal deficit. So this is about fiscal deficit and how we can borrow from ourselves, how we can borrow from others, and why leftists and centrists feel that borrowing is a good way and to run the economy within a certain degree, that is within, let's say, 4 to 5%. So this concludes the video. Thank you.